Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our WandaVision spoilers review. We're reviewing each and every single episode, so you know what that means. We're about to do a deep dive into the newest episode, episode 4. Oh boy, I'm the voodoo child, Travis Snell, and for the second week, we're joined by a guest. Introduce yourself, sir.
I am, I know you guys change it up every single time, and I'm never prepared for it. So I'm just gonna say I am fanboy Clay. I think that is just it's something that just it's me, you know.
We don't always because like, Kirkland has friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Taylor has the Field of Fields. Jessica's the Ghost. I have the Clown Prince podcast. Those are the names we rely on when we can't think of anything. So we do every once in a while, but these
Okay,
episodes
well
are.
then I'm good to go. I'm good to
Yeah,
go.
you're fine there. I'm joined also by Jon Snow, as always in these WandaVision reviews.
I am the wisdom tooth Taylor Feely.
Look at you
Ah.
with your own
Right.
bones.
He's here. Have you taken any T3s yet?
I've taken two
How-
T3s.
How are you not this must be so Clay, you don't know this, but we have this theory on Geek for years that Taylor is part of an alien race. They just dropped him here years ago to like experiment on us. And I think this is it because like I was doubled over and done when I had teeth and T3s and all that. And you're here. It's 1 a.m. our time.
It's 1 a.m. I took the opioids. I took, two T3s. I was up and moving like right away after I was done my operation. I don't remember being asleep, but I'm not swollen at all. So
I'll come tomorrow for sure. Tomorrow.
that's what you said about me being out right now. But
That's true. That's true. Then you are really an alien.
That's odd. I haven't like anybody like I think no. My little brother had his wisdom teeth taken out, and he was out of commission for like almost 2 days. So that's just weird.
Yeah,
I'll wait and
when
see.
Shay got hers out, she was pretty much like Taylor's right now. Honestly, she handled it like a champ. I was very surprised. She didn't even really take T3s. It was like upsetting her stomach, but like she wasn't too swollen. She was able to like talk fine and everything. So
it's the alien race.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
what
part
it
of
is.
it. Finally, we're joined by. I know you just talked, but
I am the fill-in the cracks, Kirkland Patzer.
Yes, and we better get in this episode because I can see a 1-star review already. Oh, they're talking about Taylor's teeth for the first 5 minutes of the WandaVision episode 4 review. What is this? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the WandaVision review series. Like we said, you can join us on YouTube in the live chat. We will answer the questions that were there last week. We apologize. That was kind of funny, but it's 1 a.m., so we forget to check a few things. But as always, Taylor, where can they find us on the interwebs?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. Geekverse.ca is our home base. Check us out on our social media, GeekverseCast on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. And then especially check us out on our Facebook because we have the Marvel Legacies poll popping off right now. And currently it is Jigsaw versus Doctor Doom. And Doctor Doom has a clean lead right now.
Yeah, I'm really thinking we might get Chris Evans versus Doctor Doom in the finals now after these past few weeks. The way people have been voting on our Facebook, I don't know. It's interesting. You felt like a WandaVision episode there where someone put you on fast forward there, Taylor, because you were quick. You just like sped through that. But
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, just go down below. That has everything down there. Our Patreon, where you can find us on our social media, where you can find the podcast, the video, the podcast network, our website, the whole shebang. We have a bunch of stuff recording for Patreon the next coming months here. So it's going to be fun, some exclusive stuff. So everything's popping off there. So that's in the description, the details. And now we're going to get into some overall thoughts and then spoilers because we have a very interesting episode. So I don't know how much there is to say on our overalls as far as a non-spoiler, because I feel like just even the opening frame of this episode is a spoiler. It's funny to say because already it might be listened to, but the title is spoilers review, so I'm sure I'm just gonna say it was I've liked everything we've gone so far. This was a refreshing take. I loved the direction we went and what we covered. There's some stuff that was kind of we've been theorizing about it for weeks, and it's like, okay, this was right, but it was nice to have confirmation where we're going. And there's a few moments that really surprised me and a few moments that really stuck with me, and one shot in particular that has stuck with me the most so far in this series that was quite frightening in my opinion. So Clay, what were your overall non-spoiler thoughts?
I will say that it was noteworthy. This time I actually like sat down. I have my freaking notebook right here. I started to write stuff down immediately as I was like, oh crap, this happened. So yeah, I think without getting into spoilers, that's really all I can say. It's absolutely crazy.
Kirkland?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust myself to like not spoil it, so I'm just gonna say.
Did you like the episode? I can ask you that non-spoiler. Double thumbs up.
It was over the 50% mark. I'll give you that.
Fuck, that'd be 51% pass.
At least.
Yeah. Taylor.
Yeah, I am very, very, very happy with this episode. It was just nice to kind of have that, not the aesthetic, but just kind of a classic Marvel movie feel, where it's not just like super hard to like the story, I guess. Like it just felt like it was just bearing in parts like that old classic Marvel film just as it progressed. And it was really nice just kind of like kick back and just kind of like, again, you're always reading between the lines, but you can take it easy a little bit and just kind of, as you said, Clay, like take notes and yeah.
The favorite thing is Taylor's covering us for his last week. He's like, if you're in the chat, don't be shy. He's like, double.
Look, someone answered. It worked. I'm telling you, they just needed to be egged on.
We'll get into that. What we'll do is we'll get our first ad break out of the way right now, and then we're going to get into spoilers because there's lots to talk about. So an ad break that supports the channel, that helps grows it, helps, does everything in between is going to happen right now. And we're back. And just like you said, we will talk about the YouTube. Angela Johnson says the writing for this show, the way everything is unfolding, is spectacular. And I think that's where we can start as far as, so this episode is I guess you could, what we define as like a present day, right? It's what's really happening in the real world. For the most part, we have a few scenes here and there back in the kind of the dome, we'll call it, whatever, the WandaVision. But the way just even, because the beginning of this episode doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the series particularly, but it has a lot to do with at least now us knowing about Monica and now Maria Rambeau. The fact that we started with the snap, and this is, I'm not trying to bring down one thing as another. One thing that I wanted a bit more on Far From Home, that I liked the comedy. I liked all the stuff like the principal saying his wife left him and stuff like that. But I did want to see like, okay, what are the real world, like we had Endgame when people are gone for 5 years. And here's Maria Rambeau who wakes up, she's in the hospital thinking her mom just had surgery. No, her mom died 3 years ago of cancer and she's just been completely gone. And I love that opening. I love seeing the franticness of the world. And I love just, again, that I hope we refer back to the, I hate the blip, but whatever, the blip, the snap more, because it is like a big event. It is kind of like in the MCU, it's like a 9/11 sort of deal, right? It's something that the whole world, it changed it and took notice of it. So the fact that it started there, one, I think was a good starting point for her character and us to get more invested in her, but two, it was just cool to see them touching back to that. And I really like that we started there. And I was not expecting to go to the snap, right? Like at the beginning of episode 4 of WandaVision, I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, no, I like, as soon as we saw the opening scene, you see Monica like coming back from the blip in pieces. And it looks like she notices it at first when she looks at her hands, and then you see everybody else come back. How much you want to bet she accidentally like inhaled somebody as she was running down the
Oh, it's possible.
It is totally possible.
Yeah.
Like that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh God, keep your mouth shut while you run through the hallway. But it was very interesting. But I think I can't remember his name, the now director of
Tyler Hayward.
He brought up a good point.
Looked it up. He's not a Marvel character either. I looked it up after. I think he's just someone created for the show.
Okay, he brought up a good point about how like there's definitely going to be things that change for somebody who comes back from the blip. And the really big thing that was very surprising, but not really, Monica's mother was the one that created Sword, but also she created something that I feel is very intentional, a protocol for missing persons that come back. I have a theory as of why, but I would like to hear you guys. What do you think that theory is?
See, I had no theory. I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like people, if they come back, they're blipped and everything like that. But Kirkland, before we get in that theory, what do you think about the opening back to the snap and blip for WandaVision here?
Yeah, like basically just to reiterate what you said, like it's just so unexpected, but it was like refreshing because I feel like I haven't really thought of the blip since like. I guess it would have been
2 years ago.
Yeah, from Spider-Man, right? So like that was really cool. I feel like like the show is obviously in the MCU, but I feel like just seeing that, it like reinforces me being like, oh yeah, like that actually happened, you know, that huge event, Infinity War, and like this is all tied together. Like obviously this is all the MCU, but like being just somewhere else while the blip happened, like the people coming back and stuff like that. It's just I love it because I feel like this whole universe just seems like big, seeing it from different sides, and I hope to see it in other like MCU shows or movies or just different like perspectives that we haven't seen already on the screen. So I really liked it. It was really fun to just find out more about the what's her name? Like Geraldine's character.
Monica
Blanking.
Rambeau.
Thank you,
Monica, and then her
yeah.
mom's Maria. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I really liked all that stuff. And then, yeah, I didn't really have too many theories regarding the protocol for it, but now that you mention it, Clay, it definitely has my mind wandering. So I'm excited to hear your theory on that.
Okay.
I guess we can hear Taylor's thoughts on.
Before Taylor goes, I just want to touch what you said there, Kirkland, as far as like reminding us of the MCU. And I think it is needed because, like, yeah, we have Wanda and Vision, they're the characters, but so far these last 3 episodes have not been the MCU. We've talked about how different it is, right? And how like it's a risk or whether you like it or not. But it's like, to me, it's that's MCU because we know it's in the MCU, but it doesn't feel like that at all. This was the first episode that felt like the way when I watched Falcon Winter Soldier trailer, they go, oh, that's clearly an MCU Marvel Studios movie. This felt like and to me, in a good way, for the most part, felt like, oh, this is a Marvel Studios episode, and it brings and ties to WandaVision. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I love the opening. I really, really do. I'm with you, Kirkland. I love different perspectives and storylines, so it was right up my alley. I think that, of course, this is the episode that a lot of people that were hating on the first sitcom episodes were waiting for, and this is the episode like they probably wanted right from the start, which in some weird sort of way, like it works. You could totally just jump in on this episode and start watching it because you get coverage from all the other episodes, and you get like the Hydra commercial in there too. So it definitely could work as a starting point. But then, I mean, you're missing so much depth and like quality entertainment if you do that. So I do think though that this is interesting how it brought in Monica Rambeau's character. How yes, she is a victim of the blip, and again, like it's just interesting because I'm assuming Spider-Man Far From Home is probably like a couple weeks or months after Avengers Endgame. So it's nice to have this storyline directly after, because she literally goes right from being blipped back into existence, going to her Sword headquarters, which we see, okay, the acting director is established it on Earth, and we know the main director is Fury operating in space. So that's kind of cool. And again, just to kind of segue into what Clay brought up, her just being told like the contingency for blip people, like you're grounded, you're not doing anything in space, you're terrestrial bound right now. And to ride off of that, I do find it interesting, but I don't know if I have any theories at this point because it just seemed like a really quick drop in conversation. There's just like there's a contingency in play.
To Ghost Rider, Taylor.
What's that?
I said nothing that ties to Ghost Rider, Taylor.
I mean, I could spin something. I mean, give me like an hour.
Give a couple more T3s and
Yeah, I'll go
so,
grab some.
So what? So what is this, Clay? What did you take away from it? Because all 3 of us, maybe just classic Canadian GV, we're like, okay, that's just a line. What do you have over here that could be cooking?
Scrolls.
Yeah. That's when you're mentioning you had a theory, I was thinking that
you're missing and you come back. They know that the scrolls can change into other people. So if somebody comes back, they may think, oh, these are scrolls. And from what they have seen, and of course, through what we saw through Captain Marvel, the either, in outer space and dark deep space, we don't know if anybody else sees scrolls as the enemies, or we don't know if scrolls see humans as the enemies still. So as a contingency plan, just to be safe, if somebody were to disappear and then come back, just in case they're a scroll and we don't really, have communication with that of like Nick Fury, who is out there right now, being the human liaison, the Earth liaison for them, like, I think it would be a safe contingency plan to just be like, okay, we're going to watch you, see how you're doing. And if you're really you, then you're good to go. But if you're a scroll, we need to know why you tried to fake to be this person.
No, I can dig that. That makes a lot of sense, especially with it being Monica being the one that puts it in there because she had all like the history. Or sorry, Maria. Damn it! Like I fucking hate that it's Maria and Monica. I'm not gonna lie, I hate that that's. But like, so like I could buy that Maria put it in her mother because obviously in the first film of Captain Marvel had all these experiences with Skrulls, learned about them, so that would be a touchstone. So yeah, I don't think you're crazy, sir. That would make sense. And even in the non-blip situation, like if someone went missing in any sort of action and then came back, you'd almost have to do that, right? Because like, let's say once the blip's over, it's like people could go missing again, whether it's in a mission or something, and then someone comes back as a scroll. Hey, we gotta check. So I think that checks out. That passes the 50% meter that Kirkland talks about, but. Where do we want so we there's so many places I want to go. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to
Eastview.
Go ahead. Yeah, you
Eastview.
Eastview
Yeah, we
and
can
the
go
call-
there.
yeah.
I was gonna mention Travis here one moment you're talking about the non-spoilers that kind of freaked you out.
we could jump right to it because like it's the ending, but I don't care. That's what we do here at Geek First. So we'll talk about all the middle stuff with Darcy and Jimmy Woo and all this stuff. But the moment where we get a reveal of what happened actually last week with Wanda and Maria, and we see the full scene where she's breaking down and like she throws her through the roof and or through the walls and everything like that. So again, really emphasize that like she's taking a turn. When Vision comes in and they're talking, and when she turns and sees Gray Dead Vision, oh my fucking god, that was
scared the
so
shit out of me.
good.
Now, do you think it's his actual dead body that she's animating, or is it just be like, oh god, for a split second I forgot?
No, I think she has his fucking dead body, and he's like a puppet, and it's super messed up and weird.
Is kissing him and had a baby with him, like Jesus.
Yeah, because the way because to me the only reason why I'm in the camp of I think it is Dead Vision is because they said so much in this episode that when you're wearing like regular clothes or modern day stuff and then you go through the portal, you'll change. So I imagine that when she initially brought him through, he was dead, but then it changed into live like 60s Vision or whatever. But then when things crack or she gets under pressure, that goes away and she just animate him. You're right, it could be that. I don't think they'll play on that too much because I think that's super dark and that's very like if they're playing on like she's making love with like a dead body, they're not gonna go that far. They're gonna simply that just gonna say like he's dead or something. But the fact that she's animating, or even then, either she's animating or he's not completely real. And if he's not real, that's interesting because then he's starting to think for himself. We see in these other episodes, right, that he's starting to question things. But even then, like, if he's a dead body, is there something that's still like a little bit alive in them? Like, is there just a tad bit where she can pull that life? And I was thought, because we've talked about this for weeks, of like, what is that thing in the preview of her making the Mind Stone? I thought, well, maybe there was a chance she got his dead body, but she created the Mind Stone and brought him back to life. Clearly his head is still just impacted and just like missing a chunk. So she didn't do that. At least yet she didn't do that yet. Maybe that's something later on down the line. Maybe there's a chance where like a Mephisto or someone evil is like, hey, I can actually bring him back. I can help you. Right. He doesn't have to be this dead. So maybe that could happen. But as of right now, he's either not there or he's dead. And I hope they go the dead route because that just makes it even weirder. That shot and just like the music and she looked away, that was like a classic like horror movie trope, and I loved this. This show's already been like a horror movie, but that was like the first, like that was like a real like boom, look at this. And
go ahead Kirkland.
I was gonna just mention like I feel like it is like just Dead Vision solely on the fact that like she saw him just gray vision looking terrible like after she like exerted all that power to like just push Geraldine out. So I feel like she might have like exhausted herself to the point that like this whole mirage that she has, which is basically this entire town, like the power level kind of came down a bit, so she lost control of like reanimating Vision there. That was, I mean, you already mentioned it, but like that scene was just so well done. And like, because at first you don't really see him in detail when he comes into the house, it's just like a kind of like a silhouette in the background. But yeah, when it just showed his gray face again, I was kind of tired while I'm watching it, but like, holy shit, I got goosebumps. And I was like, holy shit, I forgot how freaky the show can be. So yeah, sorry, what were you gonna say, Clay?
Well, I was gonna say, do you guys think that like just right before that moment, do you guys think that Wanda had the intent on killing Monica or just pushing her out of town?
I think just pushing her, because I think we're supposed to say that, or I think we're seeing that maybe she could get to that point. I don't think they'll ever make her a full-on villain where she's taking innocent lives, but I think the show, like later on this year, we could see her maybe almost take someone's life. We could see like her get to that closeness. So this is showing that, like, okay, she's hurting somebody, she's pushing them out of the way, but as of right now, she's just getting them out of her life. But what happens when someone does want to take away Vision or take away the kids?
The
That's
kids,
when,
yeah.
yes,
I was
think we could see it.
I was thinking like, because this is like the most villain like Wanda I feel like we've seen so far. And
even more than Ultron when she was introduced. Like,
no, definitely.
that was just, oh, I'm imagining my death. This is like, you've created a whole universe. You're shagging dead Vision. Like, you're fucked up right now. Huh?
Yeah, and I feel like once like something happens with those twins where they get taken away from her or whatever might happen, I feel like that'll really be the snapping point for her, and that's when we see real evil Wanda. We'll see what happens.
Oh boy, Taylor, what did you read of this whole situation?
Yeah, it's funny because I just rewatched that scene really quickly now because I swore I thought he was actually floating when he was like dead form, but he wasn't.
The opioids.
He was,
No,
the
they're getting
opioids.
to
Yeah,
Taylor,
they're
so-
getting to me.
He came out of my screen and
Yeah.
touched me.
But no, he was just he was traumatizing, like, and you don't even notice it at first because it's so subtle. Because when you see Wanda, like the camera's focused on her, and then rewatching it in retrospect, you can see it's dead Vision standing behind her, and yeah, that graphic scene, just him in his indestructible head, like, just brutal. But that's what I want more of. Like, if that's the starting point of how crazy and horrific we're gonna get for like Marvel, like bring it, go segue that all the way into Multiverse of Madness, please.
Yeah, I feel like too. After, I forget exactly what she says to Vision, like when he kind of comes back to Red Vision, and she's
He's
just
like, we
no,
can
like
go
this is,
He's
yeah,
like, we can go anywhere, we
yeah.
can do anything, and
she's
she goes,
like,
no, this is
no,
my
this is
home.
our
This is the
home. This is
Yeah.
all we have. Like that
Because
just.
if you leave, it's just a
I'm
dead
just
body.
thinking she's some crazy bitch, you know. Like I'm like, holy shit! Like she's so
Well,
so
no,
whack.
she even like what was that last quote she said? She said, "I have everything under control," and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it goes along with what Monica was
Yeah.
telling everybody else.
Mhm.
It's all Wanda.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this is something that we all were kind of predicting. I still think there is some other hands in the cookie jar per se.
Yeah.
Oh
But,
yeah,
you
we'll
know,
talk about that. There's some hints in this episode.
yeah.
Again.
So, you know, crazy bitch written all over this thing.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Like,
That last line though that you just said, Clay, like that really was like, okay, no, she is so whacked when she's like, I got everything under control. I'm like, that is the complete opposite of what she has. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what the dad says that bought the haunted house, and the family started being like,
Yeah.
Jimmy, I think we should leave. He's like, I have everything under control. Like, we paid so much for this house. Like, and then you're like, no, you don't have, like, your family's gonna die, sir. Like, watch The Shining. Watch, like, she's Jack Nicholson from The Shining right now, and she's starting to get
Yeah.
worse and worse. And like, even the music dropped to me of like when it's all Wanda, and when they play Jimi Hendrix, one of the great artists of all time, Voodoo Child. To me, it's like that's like her almost like a villain song of like. I just felt in that last 30 seconds in a good way. They're trying to hit everyone over the head of like, hey, Wanda is the bad guy, or at least she's not in the right in this show anymore. Like if you thought that all the things were being pushed against her, she's definitely making the choice. Because even to me, like she put out Monica last week, but having us actually see her do it and the way she did it was showing her being more aggressive. Last week we just got that face. This was the motions. This was her being emotional, everything like that. And this to me was like okay, there might be something else going on in the background, but she's a player in this as well. It's not against her will. Taylor, Phil, the Geekverse podcast.
So very interesting thing, and I was very curious when I was watching it. But as they started with Wanda and Vision and put their photos on the board, and then when they got the name of their character in the show and their name in real life, they were putting the paper on them, right? When you see Agnes, her in-show name is there, but if you look closely, her real life name is not there. So they
no identity.
no identity. They just put her up there. So I think that's very interesting because, again, they only put them up there if they had their identity, right?
But here's the other thing, because I also wondered if she's still red herring. Because have you looked at that board and have you seen who's not on that board?
No, Frank, right?
You mean Ralph?
Ralph,
the
that's the
devil
one,
guy?
yeah.
Well, Kim too, but also no Dottie.
Right.
Dottie's not on that board.
Yeah.
Why is she not on the board? And especially because in episode 2, she had that weird interaction with her. Dottie was the person that goes, she knows. I still could see some sort of twist because people have been like, there's so many hints about Agnes making devil references, stuff like that. I could still see, I know people hate this, a Mandarin sort of like twist where we're all thinking it's actually Agnes and it might be actually Dottie or something like that. I Dottie on that either, because I feel like that's what they're trying to do, like a magician, like make us all look at Agnes like, oh, Agnes is over here, she's a bad guy, she's Agnes Hartha, and then really Dottie is the one. I don't know for sure, because it's just like maybe it's just a situation that they didn't find out who Dottie was, but I feel like they're pretty specific to put everyone up there. So those two characters are up there for for sure no reason. I want to say Nathan Davis said, I'm pretty sure the radiation that they called CMBR or cosmic microwave background stands for chaos magic bends reality, which chaos magic is a thank you Kirkland for letting me know in the chat. Chaos magic is what Scarlet Witch is known for in the comics and whatnot. So it is interesting. Kirkland, what do you think about Agnes not having an identity, and then also Dottie not being on the board, as far as they've pinpointed everybody as far as the main characters we've met, but not these two?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, ever since the first episode, when you were mentioning like Agatha, I think that was the first time I had heard of that character, and I've just been really intrigued as to like who she could actually be, and if she is Agatha, how she kind of plays into this, because I'm just not too well versed like with those types of characters. And then I didn't even notice that Dottie wasn't on that list, but that's a character that I've been really like suspicious of. I think that's the best word to use since her introduction and like her interactions with Wanda, like especially when she like cuts herself, or not cuts herself, but you know, she's bleeding and then it goes all colored and everything. Yeah, I'm just so puzzled. I don't really have too much. I guess
she's the only person that's interacted with color, other than from when it actually changes, like with the two black and white.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with it.
That kind of foreshadows too, or not foreshadows, but connects with they didn't have an answer for why the helicopter turned color, right? Because they thought like, why'd you guys make it turn color? And they're like, oh, they
didn't know. Yeah, he said, why'd you colorize the picture? She goes, I didn't. And at least we got that. So I was wrong about the hashtag Travis told you were wrong about the Ant-Man theory. That was wrong. It was just a drone. And what happens is it takes like modern day technology and changes to whatever era it in. So that was cool. We saw the beekeeper who was in a hazmat suit and he turned into a beekeeper. So we saw it several times. But you're right, as far as they did talk about that being the color as, hey, why is this in color? And she's the, like Clay says, she's the one that had color. So it is interesting because like I said, it's just because they're playing this game with Agatha or Agnes and her, as far as like that's what I mean. Like I feel like the color and stuff, like there's like little stuff to the side happening with Dottie, but then there's like more overt stuff happening with Agnes, but then she keeps talking about Ralph, and that's the problem. It's like, okay, well, how does it all connect? Or maybe go ahead.
Just to piggyback one more thing on the coloring, you have from Wanda's perspective, select things that are color, but then we finally got a perspective of someone else in that realm, like the beekeeper, where it was all color for him.
Right.
So that's another interesting.
Yeah,
then
it was. And then it turned.
Was it all turned? Yeah, but then it turned black and white. So to me, that was like, oh, even his mindset being in there is changing. So it's like, I don't know, the same thing with Dottie. I don't know if she is just a regular person. Like, knowing the show so far, both those characters, the non-identity for Agnes and Dottie not being on the board, I think that was thought out. They didn't just forget about Dottie and not include her, right? Like, there's a reason she's not there. What's that reason? This is the one where I'll have to take a few days because I don't have an overt theory as far as why she's specifically not there. All of us have a theory about Agnes. It's like, okay, she could be this evil witch, but like, is Dottie Mephisto maybe? Is she Ralph somehow? Like I don't know. Is she like is Agnes an evil, but then she's a greater evil? I don't know. I really don't. I would love if we do get revealed, like, oh yeah, we did just forget to put her on the board. That are bad. Like they were, like we're thinking they're so smart.
It does definitely bring up the idea that, you know, there is somebody else at play, because when they were looking at the episodes, the first one was the first time I think was with Dottie in the pool when he was trying to talk to her. We saw from episode 2 like they were reacting to it, and that's when she smashed the glass. Here, on the perspective of them watching the TV show, We didn't see any of that. It cut. And
Mm-hmm.
then when we saw it again, when Monica and Wanda had the interaction, they said somebody is censoring the broadcast.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that could be a throwaway line to be like, oh, well, it's Wanda. Of course, she's that
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. I think there's somebody still messing around with it.
Well, and that's gonna be interesting because I've also heard that debate too. As far as there's been times where Wanda's rewind it back, but then like last week, the episode of her and Vision, people have said that maybe she didn't rewind it, that it was somebody else that cut. When Vision's like, "Oh, there's something wrong here," because there wasn't her doing anything. It wasn't her saying no. We could easily say, "Oh, in her mind, she just cut it off and then redid the scene." But that could have been someone else. As far as, oh, maybe a Vision was getting too close to figuring out or doing something. I need like because it's the same thing. Like whatever Wanda's doing, this if there is another villain, might not even be pushing Wanda to do bad things, but it's just like he just needs her still to be a distraction. He needs her to be on the side doing this stuff because maybe he or she's doing something greater, and this huge like world bubble is like causes obviously a big distraction. She's taking over a whole town. People outside the bubble are being affected too, as far as like, well, no, this is Eastview, and like you can't come in here. Like it's a weird feeling and everything like that. So it is interesting, and that's what I would say is like I'm happy that we kind of talked about like the first 6 episodes would all be the comedy episodes and we get more of it. I don't know now. I think we'll definitely get these comedy episodes again, but after this episode, I feel like even if we go into a comedy world again, it's going to be even more weird than the past ones because we kind of went to a realm of revealing and seeing a bunch of things already. And yeah, it's interesting.
I feel like especially like anytime that we see more of these like glitches or like little I was gonna say blip, but I guess that's that's got another term now. But yeah, just like these little glitches, I feel like we'll definitely get to see those from like a different perspective, kind of like what we had in this one, right? We got to see what actually happened in between the lines between Geraldine and Wanda there, just on like the same lines of seeing different perspectives. And I love that stuff. When we got to see the beekeeper come up from like the sewer, and like from his perspective, when he turns and sees like Wanda and Vision standing there, that was like as creepy when we first saw the beekeeper. Honestly, like they're just like two dark silhouettes right there. And then who was it? Like whoever said the line, but and then
Wanda
it just
says no.
Yeah, or even before that, isn't it like Vision?
Yeah, it's Vision's like, hey, look at that. Who is that? Who
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah, and then he turns his head, and I've seen the scene, and I like, but at the same time, I'm like, that is just such a creepy scene.
What happens
the
to
lighting
him?
and everything.
Because like if you have Monica who is literally like projected out by Wanda in this case just saying no, and or whoever, if it's another person or character, basically rewinded time. And now you have this beekeeper obviously not being launched. Is it going to be like back at the start of the sewage tunnel or something, or like is he just going to implode?
Well, technically, that was the end of episode 2, so he should already be back with everybody if he was rewound. Maybe he's stuck in town still.
Yeah.
That's what I think. The town just like consumed him, and now he's just like working at a deli somewhere.
I was also
working
thinking
with bees.
like because he was latched on, and like when he went through the barrier, I guess, and then it kind of turned into like that jump rope thing. I kind of took that symbolically as like he's kind of got stuck in there at this, like in that moment. I think we will see his fate in the upcoming episodes. I feel like if they just don't talk about this poor guy.
Well, I got a question because I know Taylor, you brought it up in the very beginning. We saw or heard at least one commercial. Do you think Sword will recognize that these are like memories or propaganda of like the bomb or Hydra or like all these different things? Because they didn't really mention anything.
Yeah, they didn't. And maybe, I mean, what's the actress's name again from Thor?
Kat Dennings, Darcy. I can't remember her last name.
I don't know
Kat
if
Dennings was
she's. I mean, I'm sure everyone is super well versed in Hydra, so I don't know. Like, she was watching it, but she didn't seem to express too much interest in it. I would assume everyone analyzing it would 100% know because they're recording these videos and watching it. But yeah, it's hard to say because we don't know where Hydra stands in this point of time. Like, to me, it seems I feel like they're very much disbanded, but you know they've got hidden sleeper agents and stuff kicking around. Obviously, as we learned from Baron Zemo, trying to find like remnants and stuff. So it's hard to say if they're going to prove to be like an actual threat or not. I feel like they might make the assumption that okay, these are just parts of her life that she's pieced together in these sitcoms, because they even inquired why is it 50s, 60s, 70s. They didn't touch too much upon the fact like what happens when it gets to present day, and I'm really curious, like, is that going to be like when this radiation inside this energy just like explodes out, or like, because as I mentioned, this is like the equivalent to like the Big Bang Theory, I think, or the Big Bang explosion.
Yeah, Big Bang. I'm like,
Big Bang
I thought you were talking
Theory,
about the show. I was
huge
like, I
crossover.
don't think we're there yet. Yeah.
Sheldon's in the next episode.
It's so funny that Kirkland was talking about like how he loves like these like episodes where you see different perspectives and whatnot. And I think I'd said a couple weeks ago, like, oh, I can't wait if he is alive to get that full on just like Vision episode, show like his tracking. It's like, well, I don't think we're getting that anymore.
Just
Well,
this
Like,
dead corpse
mean,
moving around.
we still have to see him flying around in like the real world city, right? Like that from what we saw in the trailer.
Well, that's what's so interesting, and that's why I wonder if like he still has to be somewhat alive, because there is times like, yeah, or he's gonna Agnes be like, oh, like what's going on? Like, why do you think you're dead? Like we've seen
Yeah.
he even does, and he goes and does things on his own still, right? Like he
Mhm.
still like has like thoughts. He's still questioning the situation. Like we've talked about these other episodes of like something's wrong here, stuff like that. So it's just like that's why I wonder if there's still part of him alive. Like she's found a way to rework that, but she can't physically fix him, or if she just kind of has a charm where takes everything she knows what Vision would have been and puts it in this corpse, and that's it's kind of very puppeteer like. But then eventually, can she not control it the same way? Like we talked about the stork last week, and there's all these theories like, is that a Mephisto thing? Is that not? And you guys talked about like, oh, maybe the stork she couldn't control. Maybe that's what happened with Vision. She gives this magic to him, and now she can't control him because he's like all evolved again with because she's so powerful. But this she's given life to something, but she just because she gives life to something doesn't mean she can completely control it. I don't know, and that's where it added definitely a new wrinkle, but I don't think we're getting that Vision centric episode where he's waking up and oh, let's go and have a life together.
I still wouldn't say that we won't, because
Mhm.
the one thing that I feel like a lot of people still forget is that he's an android. He not only is human, but he's part computer, and technically there's data that's always alive in a computer. I think
Yeah.
that I think that might be the aspect that we will see from it if we do, is that spark of life, coming from from as far back as what we saw in Age of Ultron, the birth of Jarvis turning into who Vision is now. So
Mhm.
I think we could see a little bit of that, and then possibly have a Vision centric episode, because I think it was in the preview or trailer of the Halloween episode that we will get eventually. There are going to be glitches that he notices,
Mhm.
and he
Yeah.
has already started to see glitches. I can't was Herb freaking
Yeah.
chainsawing
Yeah.
the wall and stuff. Like, he is noticing, and he is, if Wanda did construct him to be who he used to be, he's pretty freaking smart. So
Mhm. Yeah, I remember just after the first episode, I thought like for sure he wasn't really like thinking for himself. It was more like because anytime that something weird or glitchy would happen, it would just be with Wanda. It would be like all the comedy stuff was with Vision. So like leaving that episode, I was kind of under the assumption that Vision was just like either controlled by Wanda or just like kind of hooked up to a machine, not really like being himself. Maybe like you just mentioned, Clay, like maybe he's just like restored to factory settings and that he's just running on that basic unpersonality Vision or whatever. But now that we are starting to see like him see glitches, like with the neighbor Herb just chowing down that freaking cement wall, that was a disturbing scene. Even though it was so like bright and everything, I was just
Mhm.
disturbed about him just like chainsawing him, and he's like, what are you doing to the wall, man? And he just keeps going. Just something about this show, there's just, I feel like when those weird things happen, they're just disturbing for me, and they freak me out in a weird sense, different from like a regular horror type movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like now that we are starting to see him noticing these glitches, and then like you just mentioned from the trailer that we saw for the upcoming Halloween episode, I maybe he is, maybe there is some personality still trapped in there somewhere, even if he is just gray Vision. whatever you'd call that,
Well,
dead vision. I don't know.
Well, Vision, yeah. Well, not to scare Kirkland too much, we'll take our last ad break, and then you can take a little break and compose yourself. Yeah.
Jump scare. Yeah.
We're back with White Vision and stuff like that. That is a thing from the comics that has happened before, where he has kind of been like factory refreshed. There's like a famous thing. Check out Marvel Alliance. Me and Chris are reading some of the arc, but there's times where like he's come back and he said no memory of Wanda or the kids or anything like that, but he's just, like he said, factory reset. And that's, I do wonder if like this, as far as, I don't know if this is factory reset, because he still have like maybe it's her putting the memories in him or the experiences in him, right? Because he still knows like they're in love, I guess, but I guess he still doesn't answer like why they're there or anything like that. And it's gonna be interesting, because I still feel like are we gonna get the situation where she's gonna have to like kill Vision again, but like and against his will sort of thing? Like, is he going to be the one to step up to try and stop everything or try to break everything? I don't know. And that's going to be really heartbreaking. That's going to be heartbreaking.
It's I feel like a lot of this is going to be heartbreaking, honestly. Like the loss of the twins, whatever their fate might be, I don't think they're making it out of the show. So I feel like that's going to be heartbreaking. And then, yeah, the Vision kind of, I don't know, doing what's right to try and stop Wanda. We've seen that before in superhero movies and stuff like that. So it's nothing new there, but it's still gonna hurt. Still gonna pull on those heartstrings. So
well, and I like what you said too, that I do feel this is the most, like we talked about, the most MCU episode, but people I think that maybe were enjoying that episode will enjoy this one. And I am interested to see what happens next, though, if like we go straight back to comedy, or could it be ever a mix of like going back and forth a little bit of, do we get like a little bit of real world and then a little bit of comedy and vice versa? Same thing with the commercials, like Taylor brought up, people, would they get it? I think they will obviously have someone just rewatching this footage over and over, and maybe they'll try and use these memories to find a way to like, what could she do next, or what could be happening next, or something like that. I don't know how that goes, but I think they did lay a lot of intrigue here, and I'm pretty excited. I was already excited for the other episodes, but now I'm very excited to see, like, okay, we got episode 4. We got some really big progression, some confirmation, some theories. So it's like, what happens next?
Yeah. I feel...
Oh, go ahead.
Or, no, you go ahead.
I just had a question.
You haven't talked in a while.
I just had a question for you guys. What do you guys think about the whole fact that obviously the sheriff is like, I'm from Eastview, and this town is seemingly exists, but is erased from people's memories, but some people still can like accept the fact that it is a real town, like Cho and Monica. So
I think that it's only Wu. His name is Wu.
There you go.
Where Cho come from?
I have no idea. Opioids.
I think that the only people who don't know it exists is the surrounding civilians. I think anyone else out there, if we were to go out there, since we are not near that state or town, we could probably see the big sign that says Westview. But anybody that was around it at the time, Wanda, or, if it is Mephisto, has made it to where these people are forgetting about this town. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I am looking at the scene where he is writing stuff on the board when they're looking at all the actors, and he is writing questions. What we don't know, why a hexagonal shape? Is that the shape of like the force field that he's talking about? I don't know what's the hexagonal
Yeah, I know. I was
shape?
wondering that too, actually, because I did notice that he wrote that down. My mind just went bees because I'm so simple that way, and like,
are the bees hexagonal shape?
Well,
yeah,
like
honeycombs,
the
man.
honeycombs, yeah.
Okay.
But also,
mean.
they are considering scrolls as well, because on the edge of the screen, whenever I did pause it, it says scrolls in parentheses for who is behind this is the question, and scrolls in parentheses.
That's gonna be every Marvel project or TV show or movie now. Every character, like, well, Skrulls, write that down. It could be Skrulls. And so for those characters to tell about much, like, I like seeing Jimmy Woo back. I like seeing Darcy back. The comedy throughout the episode was like a 50-50 for me. It either not worked as far as like I was laughing off my seat, but like it either worked or there's like a lot of jokes that just like fell flat for me. And that can happen in the MCU. And I think that had a lot of stars like To me, when I was watching this episode, it's like everybody that like picks apart the MCU for like, I hate that they're just so comedic. This is an episode where it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely an episode that these people are gonna fucking hate because it's just like it's that very MCU like quippy like just line after line, and I think they worked. Sometimes didn't work. But I liked that they were almost fourth wall breaking as far as they were playing the users, because even on Wu's board to one point he wrote like, is Vision really dead or something like that, you know, like
Yeah.
they were asking like, well, why would she be playing 60s? All the questions we were asking, they asked in this episode, and ones we hadn't thought about or ones that we've talked about before as far as theories. So I think that was good too, because it kind of puts them in the perspective. And then, like I said, it was like almost like a fourth wall thing of like, we're watching a show, then we're watching Sword, and now we're watching Sword ask the questions we do. And I like seeing those characters. One note I had that I really liked it. Anyone notice what Agent Wu did with his card when I gave it to Monica Rambeau the first time? He did the magic trick from Ant-Man 2. So remember in Ant-Man 2, Paul Rudd the whole time was doing magic. He's like, how did you do that? Tell me how you do that. So between Ant-Man and the Wasp and now this, he's learned magic because of Scott Lang. So that was I like that. It was really nice touch. And we talked about this before in the previews, but I still like seeing that, like, you have Wanda and Vision, you have Darcy, now you have Wu, characters from completely different movies, different franchises, like in the Marvel universe, mixing up, and it feels completely like a regular TV show, or like the comic books where you have a bunch of characters and it's just like, oh, this character's now because the adventure tells them that they have to be here. And that's why I like that you have all these characters from different movies, and it's just like it feels natural. And I think that's the great thing about MCU and their world building. They've kind of built that in. But I like seeing these two again. Taylor Phil of Geek podcast.
Just a question for you guys. So when Darcy pulls out her physioscope, is Lexington Instruments of any note, or is it just a random name?
Well, it's tough because there could be something in Marvel, but I don't think there's anything. There's nothing that I jumped on my seat like, oh, here comes Magneto. You know, like I don't think it was anything like, you know, of that note. You know,
Ghost Rider's original bike was called the Lexington.
Oh my intern's here, Johnny Blaze. Hey, how you doing? I'm giving up the
I got that coffee for you, Darcy.
Yeah, just running coffee.
It's warm. It's extra hot. Why does he keep making hot references and stuff? It's really warm out today, guys. I should get on my bike. And it's like, okay, Johnny, shut the fuck up. Like, we're trying to figure this out. He's like, he just walked away and he's like a sad Ghost Rider. Oh, they didn't figure it out. But yeah, anybody else have anything to say on Wu and Darcy being back?
Yeah, I feel like my goodness. I feel like jeez, worst person to go to.
Stop it. It's like the scene.
Yeah. No, just redo that. Yeah, I feel like the Darcy character was just, for me personally, is kind of a lesser character for me throughout the series. I didn't really care for her too much in Thor, and in this one the humor was definitely 50-50 for me, Travis, as well. I feel like there's times I was having a little too much of her, but again, she was helping progress the story. You know, she was the one that kind of figured out like the old retro TV show was going on. But yeah, I loved the other guy, James Wu, right?
Jimmy. Well, I guess James could be. Yeah, Randall Park in real life.
Okay, nice,
great Randall Park.
For some reason, my mind went Chew or Cho, whatever Taylor just said.
Taylor said Cho. He's thinking of Hangover.
He's incepting ideas into my brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I did like that, and just to go with what you said, Travis, like it is fun to see these characters that we've seen before, whether I like them or not. It is nice to not have just like a fresh face every time, because then like it really makes you feel like this is like a universe, you know, like we're seeing these characters again that we've seen in previous films. So I do like having that. And just to comment on, I feel like out of any week, this was a week that I wanted 2 episodes, because I just wanted that that classic like sitcom, you know, type style. It's the reason my nickname was Filling in the Cracks, because that's literally what I felt like this episode was. Like we're finally getting to see like some behind the scenes stuff of what's going on outside of like the set, I'll call it, which is basically what Westview is. And like I'm not saying that episode was bad for any reason like that. It's just I really want to see more comedic, because I love that classic comedy that we were seeing in those episodes.
Well, and like I said, I really feel like next week you're gonna go back to that, but we're gonna get some reveals, and I think they're gonna be like I said, I don't think you can go back. You can't put the monkey back in the bottle, as James Franco says at Pineapple Express. You know,
how many episodes do we have left?
Isn't there 5? So 9 episodes total.
Yeah, there's 9. So we've got so we got 5 left. So I because people, and that's why I'm gonna bring in Thompson 202 says I have a theory. What if Evan Peters is cast in WandaVision ends up being Mephisto? I still think that people brought up when we get to the Full House episode, that's where you could see the uncle episode, like the uncle character was very in those sick, right? Was like the single uncle that was wacky. I I don't want to guarantee it, but I think next week we could be seeing a Quicksilver, because I think the Halloween episode is the episode right before everything really shatters, right, and goes back to like everything could be present day.
Yeah.
So I think we'll get one more of like, well, I think we'll still get, well, I don't know where it fits, because we know for a fact that we're getting like an 80s one, that's Full House. We're getting a 90s kind of Friend style, superior to Seinfeld, and then we're getting a 2000s Modern Family one. So there's like 3 episodes, but the thing is, those could be easily mixed together. We don't know. But in this Full House episode, if you are going with this theory of like, oh, there's an uncle, and Paul Bettany keeps talking about like, I shared scenes with an actor I've never acted with, it's going to change the MCU. He said this in public. I'm not throwing a trash told you so, but I wouldn't be surprised next week if we see some Quicksilver related stuff, because we talked about that, like, hey, she brought up Quicksilver, they're going to expand on this. This was a pause on Wanda's story, right? It was about, like you said, filling the cracks. It's about everything in the past. So now when we catch up to Wanda, we're still in that present day where she just had those memories of Vision. And if it's like, if she can take a dead, or of Pietro, if she can take a dead Vision, what would make her life better? Oh, I'd really love if my brother was around to see my kids. And there he is.
Sorry,
you know, whether it's
that is so heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, it's gonna mess her head up.
She's gonna be having dinner with a bunch of dead people.
She's doing it to herself. That's the messed up thing.
Totally.
So two things. You said Paul Bettany said he's gonna be like working with someone that he hasn't been on set with before, because he would have been in Age of Ultron.
Well, not if it's Evan Peters.
Well, Evan Peters, it's different. But okay.
Yeah.
So going to my next question, then, in this sense, it seemed like when she was talking about it, it seems like she came to terms with the fact that he died in this show. So I don't see her really needing to resurrect him, because when she was talking about it, when she was looking at the twins, she was explaining her story, and like she was explaining it from a sense like she's aware and conscious that her brother is dead. And that's that.
So you're gonna trust, if she's walking around dead puppet Vision over here, you're gonna trust that she's in her clear mind, and not the next morning wake up be like, you know what, maybe I was wrong, maybe I do miss my brother, I'm not closure that, because if she's like sleeping next to this just
I
dead
don't think
cold
it'll be
Vision,
I
don't know.
I think her last words speak volume. I have everything under control.
Yeah,
I think it genuinely means like, this is our home, and we can literally make it whatever we want. So I think she would, if she had the chance to, and she clearly does, I think she would bring her brother back. Now, to make it not so obvious to that of a dead Vision, it would look different. So that's why Peters would come in and not, I can't remember the other actor's name.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah. So I think that she would do it for sure.
Yeah.
I think it'd be an outside force doing it.
That's what I was just gonna say. What if they're just having dinner and there's a knock at the door, and it's Evan Peters, like, hi, like, I'm not like hi, but
and she's kind of like dumbfounded.
Yeah, but he's just like, I'm your brother, blah blah blah. It's great to see the kids, and Vision is acting all for it, like, oh yeah, this is I said the same thing to her. Like, if there is an outer evil, what if it is? It's like, hey, I need to give her another distraction. Maybe she does want that brother back, and that's where Mephisto's like, boom, new brother, and that's how she starts to figure out of like, hey, Kirkland, it's still my turn. That's how she starts to figure it out. And she's like, this isn't my brother. He doesn't act like this. This is not the way he is. And it could still be like Clay talked about. Maybe it's Evan Peters ripped from a different universe last week. And that's where they both start to figure out, like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, yeah, you're not. But Kirkland, what were you, you're being rude over there.
I feel...
Birthday boy thinks he's all, popular and everything.
It's not my birthday anymore, actually.
No, shout out to your mom.
Nicer. Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Shout out to my mom, 1 year older.
Happy birthday to Mama Bear Kirkland Patzer.
She's probably just tearing Travis apart on Twitter for misspelling a word or something.
I'm gonna wish her happy birthday on Twitter, and I'm gonna tell her I apologize for the
purposely
the
spelling
mistakes.
happy birthday wrong.
Yeah.
I should. Happy birthday with a D.
I feel like this is Wanda that'll be manifesting this. I don't think it'll be like an outside force or whatever it might be. And the reason for that feeling is what Clay said, like that last statement that she made, where it's like everything is under control. Like, to me, that is just a cry for help. Like, she is just so like struggling with like actual mental health of like dealing with all these lost men, like family members. You know, she's dealing with so much grief that like she just wants to suppress it and just pretend it's like fine, which is like what she has right now, right? She has this utopia with Vision looking handsome as ever until for a split second she sees dead corpse Vision. But yeah, I especially, you know, what Clay just said, like it just speaks so much volume, that one statement that she made. And I definitely think that this is her doing. Travis Snell of Geek vs. Podcast.
Yes. So I'm still sticking with my theory of last week of, if that stork was not under her control, she doesn't have everything in control. And that shows that maybe she just bringing it alive, but that could have been outside force putting that there. And if she can't get rid of that little bird, there might be some other thing she might not be able to get rid of, because that bird just appeared. And that's my working theory, as far as the bird was like a preview to show, look, people can put something else in this world. And Kirkland of Geek vs. Podcast is going to respond.
I want to show my my quality.
Your true quality. Yeah.
Like I do agree with you. I think the stork like is a symbol that there is, that it has meaning, especially we're all being respectful right now. I like it. So I, especially like when you guys were like talking about Mephisto and like the red like symbolism that he kind of has with that. I do agree with that's probably what it is, or at least it's a solid theory. But I do think that there is certain things that Wanda does have serious control over, and these things that are like really close to her heart, whether it's the loss of her brother or the loss of her lover, you know, Vision. I think that is kind of more in her control. But I do agree with you. I think there is more players behind the scenes that I'm not really seeing right now.
Two things. One, Taylor Field, you know, just answering the questions in the chat, not saving it for all.
No, because we're talking about it right now.
That's fine. And then fanboy Clay from Ranger Alliance.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we all know that, you know, they have been teasing that there is definitely somebody else that has somewhat of control.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that Wanda clearly has a huge amount of stress and very, very obvious mental illness.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she wouldn't be doing this. So it's a mixture of everything. And I think that's what we need to really hone in on. And we really won't know until it reveals itself. But since we do have 5 more episodes, do you guys think that they will keep this rotation or formula of, okay, we're going to get 3 more episodes of sitcoms, and then we'll have another real world episode, like kind of reviewing those episodes? Because I don't know if I would like that, to be completely honest.
I don't know if I like that. Yeah, because it's kind of like a one-trick pony. That's like, well, you already did that. I do feel like going in the real world. I feel like there's a chance we get a next week's episode, and it's half and half, going back and forth. Not necessarily them watching, but just like, okay, here's what's going on in the comedy world, and then here's what's going on in the real world. Not like, oh, the comedy episode, then they watch back. Just because I feel like there's some people that I guarantee you, and I know personally, that don't love like the comedy aspect, right? So if they get this episode, like, oh, this is what I really want, this is how I'm liking it, and then they go right back to that could maybe turn some people off. I think most people are going to stick with it because this episode revealed I think it showed that, okay, everything's going to make sense eventually. But I think it is tough if they go right back to the comedy episode, unless it's like things are really breaking down. Like I said, like if it was in Evan Peters or Quicksilver in general, that would warrant a whole like comedy episode, maybe, as far as, you know, because that's a big reveal or something. But I think, because even then Monica came back, we didn't get to talk much with Monica. They still kind of insinuated that, like, oh, she went in there and maybe she was acting along, but we still don't really know. I'd like to hear her perspective, her talk about it. So if the next episode just completely ignores Monica, I'd go, like, that's a kind of a bummer. So like, we just learned a lot about her character. So that's why I'm hoping it's the 50-50 kind of vibe. But it could easily be 2 episodes and then like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Because if it is all comedy and we're not even on the outside world really until maybe like a quick snippet at the end, I think I would be disappointed. Especially since, like I mentioned, like this episode, I feel like it kind of just filled in the cracks. And then like when it ended, although I do know more, we're still in the exact same spot that we were in the last episode. You know, with
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep calling her Geraldine because I know I'm gonna mess up and call her by her mom's name. So Geraldine's character just like laying in the field with like the helicopters and everything. Like that's literally how the last episode ended, right? So I do agree with you. I do really want to know more. So many questions that I have. It's nice that we're not over the hump yet. We still have more episodes than we've gotten already. So
Oh yeah. Assad Games in the chat says he's never seen anything like this in the MCU, or they've never seen anything like this in the MCU. It's going to give them nightmares. They were referring to the Vision part. Yeah, that's going to stick with me. That was like,
yeah,
because I just wasn't expecting that. It just reminds me of the Pet Cemetery quote. You know, sometimes dead is better. And it's just like he was just not looking good. You know, and especially because he's dead, but he's also in like the sweater, and it just made you feel bad. We had talked about this, but it was still like, I was always like, because I think Brent on Marvel Squadcast brought this up, like this is what he wanted to, and I was always like, I do want that. But it's like, does Marvel go that route? Because they do lots of stuff, but it's like, that is just like another different layer as far as like, yeah, she's with a dead body, you know, like that's like that's Norman Bates type of stuff.
This is just one more step towards Marvel Zombies.
You know? Oh yeah, we're getting and what if, you know, we're getting Captain America zombie and stuff like that. So do we have anything in particular else we want to add that we haven't brought up? I'm going to read the questions from last week that we missed. There were just a few of them, but anything in particular?
Yeah, well, like just one last thing kind of with the horror scene that we got with Dead Vision. Like when this episode was mostly in like the real world and it felt just like a kind of Avengers type film or TV show or something like that we've seen before. I was like in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I wanted to get something like really disturbing that we've been seeing in the last episodes and stuff like that. So I definitely got what I was wishing for. And be careful what you wish for, because I was not expecting that scene, because especially like we had already seen that right in the last episode, like him coming in like, oh, where'd Geraldine go, right? But it was different, and that woke me up for sure. Holy shit, I had goosebumps like instantly. So
oh, I know. Next time you see Shay in the showers, you're gonna look just to make sure she's not gray. A dent in her head.
She's got a big like dent in her head. Fuck.
Yeah. What about you guys? Anything else to bring up before we answer some of these questions we asked?
Well, I think I want to go ahead and make a prediction that the next episode is going to be a sitcom episode. Like I think it's going to be. I think they'll skip everything and kind of make you think like, what the fuck? Yeah. But I think that this show has kind of dipped into the weird to be able to do that. And so I think we will get stuff with Monica, but it probably won't be until episode 6.
Okay. I could see that. I think if I were to pick a route, I think you're probably right. I think that's probably the route we're going to go. And yeah, I guess next week will be the 80s Full House, so we'll have to see how that goes. So here's a couple questions. If anyone in the chat has some to throw, do them now, because soon we're going to be ending it. Lyrics last week asked, are they reading the chat? No, we weren't reading the chat. That's why we're doing these questions now. Carlo Acosta said, Wanda scared me when she asked Monica, who are you? Third or fourth time, her face full of anger. And we got to see a lot more of that this week because the whole scene and whatnot, it was like, Monica got out lucky. That's all I'm gonna say. Is to me like she got ripped to shreds, and I wonder if she even has some bruises going through a couple walls, you know, because that can't be good.
Yeah, I think one thing that we didn't mention was when we saw Monica's photo walking into the sword base, her nickname was her hero name from the comics.
Was it Spectrum?
Was it Spectrum? I thought it was. It might have been. Hold on, I actually have it right here. I have this. Because
the problem is she was Captain Marvel at one point, and then is it Spectrum or something else?
Photon?
I can't remember what. Photon? Yeah. Okay, you might fucking Photon. Here's my Photon just crashing. But yeah, okay. So that kind of makes sense as far as too with even Captain Marvel. They did the whole like call sign with the Avengers and stuff. So they like carrying those names over. So. That was cool. I didn't even notice
Maria, that. Well, it's Maria. Yeah, Maria Photon Rambeau. But shit, I completely forgot it. So keep going. I lost it.
Let's see here. Batman 29 asks, so Angus and Herb part of Sword because they certainly know something is going on. That's tough, and we didn't get much more of that this week. I think it's just that's still TBA, and I think that is either the people in the world are starting to realize it, or if Agnes is a witch, I could see her almost letting people in on the secret, or I don't know, because we got the sense of when Wanda stressed out, the world can kind of break, and we saw her cut down, the cement and everything. So I think maybe just as time goes on, maybe that's getting the effects wearing on them. They don't have to be to it, but I would say, at least to your question, I don't think they're part of Sword. That I would say that, especially because the ID heard in this episode, right? It's just a regular person. So, let's see, and finally, Busy Boy Connor. People talk about Angus's brooch and the look of the Grim Reaper. To me, the brooch looks like a larger figure of Umbrella protecting two kids. Maybe Agnes is protecting the kids from WandaVision, and maybe that could be the case, that she's there to try and help Wanda. Like we might think she's an antagonist, like pushing things along, but maybe she has linked up with Wanda and she's going to try and help her get this. I can see that, because and maybe it is that. I just don't know, just because how much hinting they've done. I just don't know if she's just the straight up Agatha Harkness and she's going to be a villain in the back. I think we've gone so many like pointing in that direction. It's hard for me to know, is that real anymore? I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Agatha wasn't always a villain, right?
No, she's gone back and forth as being like a mentor and stuff like that, so they can easily take that route.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Any final thoughts on this episode?
No.
So like listen to this, Clay. She's gone by Captain Marvel, Photon, Pulsar, Daystar, Spectre, Lady of the Light, Spectrum, Monica Marvel, and Sun Goddess.
Jesus Christ.
That's a lot of news, because I had to check. I'm like, I thought, like, because anytime I've read her, I'm like, I thought she was Spectrum. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Let me go check it out. It's 2 a.m. here. And it's like, no, she's just said fucking 10 names. So we'll have to see what she goes with. But yeah, I think we're all excited for next week. That's going to be interesting what happens. And I can't wait. I'm just so excited that there's just MCU stuff. And I love that when this show ends, it's like 2 weeks in Falcon Winter Soldier. But like, it's all I'm like, it's a catch-22, because there's times where it's like, oh, I just want to know everything about this show because I want to know what the secrets are. And I think with MCU starting with Falcon Winter Soldier was safer. But for me, it is going to be a little tough after this one, because I'm excited for Falcon Winter Soldier. Maybe Loki will have some mystery, but I don't think any of the shows are going to have the same level of intrigue as far as this type of way of like theorizing, the same way that WandaVision does. Like I think Falcon Winter Soldier will have some twists and turns, but be pretty straightforward. Loki with time travel, multi-universes, you might go like, oh, this is fun. What are they setting up? But like to have this like every week, there's like a new question, a new mystery. I'm going to feel a little spoiled going into the other ones. And I think that's a good thing, but it's also going to be interesting, because I'm sure there's other people that are like, yeah, fuck this. I just want like Falcon kicking ass, and that will be more for them. But for me, it's going to be like, oh, like I'm going to miss it when it's over the 5 weeks. I'm already dreading it, that it's like, but I'm excited too to watch it all together, because the episodes are short enough that I probably will, once this is all over, like watch it in one sitting, be like, okay, see where all the breadcrumbs were.
Right.
So
yeah, no, for sure. That just like the Falcon Winter Soldier, for some reason my mind just went to the total dude bros. That's what the audience is for. But and like this show, I feel like multiple times I keep comparing it to something like Get Out, where there's just so many weird things that happen, and then especially like when Wanda kind of makes like the whole world glitch out, and then the characters are starting to be like, get me out of here, like help me, like what is going on? And then it reminds you of in like Get Out
when he gets the photo.
Yeah, exactly. And then he just starts like crying, and like Jesus, like that is just so disturbing for me. And
that moment, like talking about little disturbing moments in Get Out, that moment when I think his name's Chris, the guy that that's the main character's name. Oh, what is Daniel Kaluuya? He plays him, and he goes for like the fist bump, and Lakeith Stanfield just like grabs it and shakes it. And it's just a little thing, but it's like it's so fucking creepy because it's just off, and he's just like, "How are you today?" And he's like acting all white and everything like that. How are you? And it's just like that. This show definitely has those like moments and whatnot, and. I'm gonna predict it's not gonna be anything as crazy as white people taking over black people's bodies, but
no,
we do have Wanda taking over dead bodies, so we're in the same ballpark. Yeah, and possibly sleeping with them, so we're in the ballpark. So, oh boy, and I just worry, like, does Wanda like look in the mirror and she just sees like a like a dead corpse of Vision just on top of her. Like, oh, oh boy, not what I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.
You know that scene in The Shining when he goes to that one room?
Yeah.
Well, we already know that like it was at the beginning of the second episode. You know, they pushed the beds together.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and just like they've already done the dirty. You know.
They've consummated.
This show gets so much creepier when you look back at like all the scenes that they've had together, and then just pick like replace Vision with dead Vision. It's just like it gets so much more eerie.
I did have a question for you guys, because I didn't really consider this until somebody else brought it up about how I think somebody said right after I finished the episode on Twitter, you know, Disney's going to have us double dipping as soon as the series finishes. We're all going to go back and we're going to binge it.
Mm-hmm.
Disney Plus has not said anything about not digital releases, but Blu-ray like stuff. Have they? Because even other content like Mandalorian and stuff like that, they haven't made announcements for Blu-ray releases. So
I don't think they will be here. I think they want you to subscribe to it. I could see Mandalorian get like a Blu-ray like. It sounds crazy, but 5+ years from now, because maybe like own the whole series if you want. But I think they want
done.
No, yeah, well, exactly when it's done. But they want you have to come for the especially WandaVision. I think they'd wait until like after Doctor Strange because it ties in. So if anytime when people say you gotta watch WandaVision, well, how do you watch that? Well, you gotta go to Disney Plus. So I think that's why I think it'll be a long time before we get any physical media, and the physical media is already kind of dying out, right? But you know.
Yeah, but even the idea that like, and I said this when the investors call came out, like I think Disney has my money for at least another 4 years, but if
they have it for life, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, but with kids, it's like that like
when I saw that Star like listings today, oh my gosh, yeah, they got me.
Well, Clay doesn't have.
I don't have that.
He's Canadian, so
yeah. So
yeah, Stars was nice. When we got that link today of everything, it's like, oh my god, like all the FX and Fox stuff. It's like, yeah.
But as of right now, I do have the 3-year, you know,
the Founders Pack.
The Founders Pack, yeah. But I don't know if they're gonna offer that when it's time to renew, you know. So if I do have to like, I'm just gonna go ahead and stop it. Like, it would be nice to be able to purchase at least one season that I like, especially if I buy all of the MCU content already. Like I might as well, because I own all those digitally also, so I would love to own WandaVision at some point.
No, I feel like, again, like how we were just talking about like Mandalorian possibly doing that when the series is said and done. I feel like because the series is limited, like it has a start and finish date, it is possible, because it's only 9 episodes, right? We're not going to be getting season 2 WandaVision or anything like that. So
I don't think so, but you never know, right? I would say if you ask me, no, it's not going to happen. But there maybe at the end of Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness, Vision's fully alive, Scarlet's back to being good, and it's about, you know, them raising the kids real time this time. You know, like I will say no, but you never know with this, right? Like Paul Bettany thought when they all asked him about the show, they thought he was getting fired. But it was really just that no, we want to do this show. So it's like, who knows, you know?
He goes in there just pissed off, swearing, "Fuck you guys."
Well, he went into the office.
You gave me a penis in Age of Ultron.
Apparently, he told the story. He went into the meeting with Feige, and he's like, "Well, it's been a good run." And Feige's like, "Are you quitting?" And he's like, "Aren't you firing me?" He's like, "No, we're gonna offer you a show." He's like, "Oh, well, then I'm for it." So
that'd be
kind
weird.
of funny. Yeah, kind of funny situation there. But and the only last note I had to bring up. Elizabeth Olsen getting second billing in the show under Paul Bettany. Not cool. I'm all about billing, and I'm always making big deals. It's like she's the star of the show, in my opinion. I know Paul Bettany's a tad bigger name and stuff like that, but no, she's the star of the show. You know, she should go Elizabeth then Paul. You know, plus like Paul's not getting all these memes about him. He's getting a few memes, but Elizabeth Olsen's all over the internet now. She's been there because of great memes. Anything else? Or we're closing this down. They're reviewing the books. There we go. Well, Clay, thank you for joining again. Good, some theories there and everything. And then we'll be back next week. If you're watching live on YouTube, We probably won't be going late night on the Friday unless we can somehow convince Kirkland, because he does work early on the Friday. But if we can try to convince, look at that face. He's like, you're not convincing me. He needs his.
It's a maybe.
But it's a maybe. But Kirkland, I still think there's one part of you when Thursday gets there, you might be like, I want to know what's gonna happen. You know, even that first Thursday you stayed up and you were originally gonna be working. You know, so
yeah,
we'll see.
I mean,
fans just tweet at
Kirkland
doesn't have a Twitter, but just tweet at Geek first and tell him he needs to do it. But
either way, I think I can adjust my start times, so we'll see. I feel like the hype levels will be ramping up once we get closer to that Thursday midnight. So we'll see what happens. No promises.
Yeah, and then for Snyder Cut, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna stay for 4 hours. So you're gonna
no,
no, that'll be we're taking on Friday to watch that.
DC Alliance.
yeah, check out the podcast center. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. Please rate, review, subscribe, whether you're watching on video or audio. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that was in the chat. We got all the questions this week, motherfuckers. We made sure, and all the ones from last week. So we did it. We'll do it from now on, and we'll be back next week, and it will not be boring.
Peace.
Bye bye.